Welcome to Synthaholics. This is your host, David Duncan, and with me is...
I'm Brian. Hello, David. Here we are again. We're talking about Star Trek today. I'm ready to podcast.
Star Trek, two times in a row. This doesn't happen
Yeah, what
very
is this,
often.
2017?
What is this, Synthaholics back in the day? It's like a blast from the past. We're talking about Star Trek for multiple weeks at a time.
So David, I don't remember the name of the movie. Star Trek 4... Oh, man, Star Trek 4 Home? No, Voyage Home. Voyage Home, that was it.
The Voyage Home, yes.
Got it.
Or also affectionately known as the one with the whales.
That is the one. There was whales in it. Two of them.
It's the one. It's the one with the whales. So, like, if anyone talks about Star Trek movies, like, yeah, I like the one with the whales. That's Star Trek 4. Just for people who don't know.
So, David, let's start off with ratings, but we're going to go real quick with ratings because then I just want to jump right to the end.
You just want to skip right to the very end.
Skip right to the end. We're going to start there and work backwards.
Work our way. We're going to work our way backwards. Okay.
Yes.
So, Star Trek 4 is up there with my other top two favorite Star Trek movies: Star Trek 2, The Wrath of Khan, and Star Trek 6, The Undiscovered Country. Those three.
Okay, hold on. Isn't The Wrath of Khan the one with Benedict Cumberbatch?
No, that is Into Darkness. The
isn't
new version of
Khan, though?
He's playing Khan, but the original Khan was played by Ricardo Montalban, and he appeared in an episode of the '60s show called Space Seed. And so the Wrath of Khan was a follow-up to the events of Space Seed.
Okay, go ahead.
And J.J. Abrams decided, hey, let's reboot Star Trek so we can do new stuff. And instead of doing new stuff, they just did Khan again.
I'm not gonna say anything because I already know your thoughts on that Khan movie, and I know my thoughts, and they're not the same.
Well, I mean, it's one of the better of the three. I think the third one's my favorite, but anyway, of the reboot films. But we're talking original Star Trek films. Actually, just Star Trek films in total. Like, I would give Star Trek 2, Star Trek 6, and Star Trek 4. They're pretty much even in my books. They're all like around a 9. I really love this film.
A 9. Well, David, let me tell you. What do you think I'm gonna say? Do you think I'm gonna give it high? Do you think I'm gonna give it low? What's your gut telling you? I know what I'm saying. I got it locked in.
Brian's unpredictable. I feel like you might give it like a really medium score, but the general consensus for people who don't like Star Trek, they generally enjoy this film. So I'd say like a 7.
Whoa, close. I was gonna give it 7.5. Couldn't go to 8, but I thought it was better than a 7. So I was at 7.5. We're doing points today. We're doing points. I came up with that point last night.
Well, Aaron and I didn't really do points when we talked about Star Trek. We just kind of like just talked about it.
Well, then I'll round up. I'll round up and go to 8 since this is 2017. We're doing was the podcast going on in 2017?
Yeah.
Okay, I thought so.
Yeah.
So I'll go 8 then, since we won't do points. I enjoyed it. It was enjoyable. But this before we dive into any of my enjoyment from this movie, I watched this, David. Mm-hmm. It kept my attention the whole time. The whole time I followed it beat by beat. I understood what was going on. A little confusing in the beginning though. That said, though, that we got past that because I feel like I'm missing context to the first three.
This is technically Return of the Jedi. See, Star Trek 2, 3, and 4 are a trilogy, but they do give you some context at the beginning because they literally are showing clips from the previous movies at the beginning of this film.
Okay, so that might be why I was a little confused in the beginning. I mean,
if you liked this film, I would recommend going back and watching 2 and 3. It's a trilogy.
Not just start at 4?
Well, 4 is like the entry point, because if you don't like 4, there's no point in going back and watching the other ones to get the full context. But if you like 4, you might as well watch 2 and 3. 1 isn't very good, 5 isn't very good. 2, 3, 4, and 6 are where it's at with Star Trek.
Got it. I'm locked in on that.
Locked in.
But I'm bringing this up. We got to talk about this. The ending. I don't understand what happened at the end. The last like minute. There's just like the floating thing. There's like what was the point of that? I was so confused. I watched that 3 times. Just the last like minute. I was like, I don't understand what is happening. It's just like it's like this the big thing floating through space, and then they're going to Wales. What is going on in that ending? I couldn't figure it out. Help me.
Okay, so the whales were the only ones who were able to communicate with the probe. Oh. So the probe was sending out the signal, and it was waiting for a response, and no one could respond to it because no one knows how to speak like whales, and all the whales were dead. So that's why they went back in time, kidnapped some whales, brought them into the future, and then the whales were able to respond to the probe signal, and so the probe was able to turn itself off and just kind of go back to where it came from and deliver the message back to the whale homeworld or whatever. Because remember, in Lower Decks, we've got the cetacean officers, we've got the porpoises. So, maybe they started opening up after Star Trek 4. They probably were like, hey, these guys are smart. We need to get our sea mammals into our ships, like our dolphins and our whales. So maybe there's a whale ship somewhere.
Okay, has that ever been explored? This whale ship?
No. I mean, it's no. But I mean, we did get the dolphins in Lower Decks, so maybe there is a whale. I'm just saying. We have dolphin officers in Lower Decks.
So maybe there's whale ones if Lower Decks.
Maybe there's a whale one. Yeah, maybe.
Because it doesn't sound like
because Star Trek
anything other than Lower Decks would do this.
I think there's technically a mention of the cetacean deck in Next Generation. So I mean, it was mentioned, and then Lower Decks like actually goes and shows it.
Okay. I'm confused now. We figured it out. That last minute really confused me for anybody everybody's probably already seen it, but like, I haven't, and I'm not the best in Star Trek, but we're here and now I understand the ending and I understand the movie. Next thing I was confused about that I'm going to bring up, David.
Yeah.
Spock. Why is he confused all the time? Like why is he old now? Like what's the deal with him?
So he died.
What? What do you mean he died?
So just the cliff notes of what happened in Star Trek II: The Wrath of Khan. Spock goes into it's kind of like the Into Darkness, except that the roles are reversed.
So Spock isn't the one that sacrificed.
So Spock went into the chamber and he got doused with radiation. He died. Before he went in there, he put his hand onto Bones' face and said, remember. He transferred his soul to Bones, the doctor, McCoy. Bones is his nickname, but Dr. McCoy. He transferred his soul to Dr. McCoy. So Dr. McCoy is acting weird, really weird in Star Trek 3. And then they, because at the end of Star Trek 2, the original Genesis device explodes, creates a planet, and they shoot off Spock's corpse to the Genesis planet. And because the Genesis planet's still kind of regenerating and stuff, Spock gets regenerated and grows up real fast. And he doesn't have his memory. So at the end of Star Trek 3, they give, they take Spock back to Vulcan, and then they transfer out his soul out of McCoy and put it back into Spock, which is why Spock is learning how to do everything again.
Okay, gotcha. That part confused me a little bit too, because I always thought he was like the super smart guy, but I didn't know maybe he just had like a little dose of like, Alzheimer's or something.
He had a little dose of death and resurrection,
Okay. I thought he was just like, oh, he's old now. I don't know.
Just a touch of death and resurrection.
Okay, well, all right. Now to the next thing that I've thought of. David, what is this? Is a part I had an issue with the movie. This is why I'm holding it back a little bit. We're not moving up a point.
Okay.
The woman that is the like the whale scientist lady.
Yeah.
She kind of just like goes with the flow and she doesn't question anything. She's just like, oh yeah, this all makes sense. She lives in the 1980s and like a dude that they go on like a date to get like spaghetti or pizza or whatever they got.
Pizza, yeah, they go to the pizza shop.
And he's like explaining where he's from. William Shatner, I can't remember. I me and names. But William Shatner is explaining, he's like, "Oh yeah, I'm just from space, and
I'm from
I
Iowa.
came here to say, yeah, I'm from Iowa, but I'm from space, and I came here to get whales to repopulate the future." And she's just like, "Oh yeah, why didn't you lead with that?" I don't. She was totally just like fine with it the whole time. What's wrong with her? Did she come back?
She thought he was insane. Like she didn't believe him. She was like, "Oh yeah." She was being sarcastic to him the entire time. She's like, "Really, I'm supposed to believe that?" And like, we don't use money. And he's like, "Oh," she's like, "I have to pay for this too." Like, because she's just like, she thought he was being a cheapskate. But it's just, yeah.
Yeah, but you would just want to like get out of that situation.
Technically, he's violating the temporal prime directive by telling her about all this stuff. But and then no one's overhearing. No one's overhearing any of this conversation and being like, "What?"
Well, I mean, he's just an insane person.
Talking about?
Nobody would take him seriously. I mean, that would.
I don't think she did. I think she thought she was. She didn't like really believe it until like the very end of the film, when she's like running. She ran out to the park and ran into the invisible ship, and she's like, "Well, I guess that's weird."
Yeah, but she was like too open to it, man. She was just like, "Oh, I'll go find these people, pick them up, and then they'll explain their like life story to me for some reason." Like, nobody in their right mind would do that.
Brian, we got to take our wins where we can, because her role was originally going to be played by Eddie Murphy.
I mean, that could have been better. I don't know. Eddie Murphy was a funny guy back in the 80s.
Yeah, but I mean, like, it was like they were trying to have him as like the whale scientist.
I think that I don't know, man. Now that you told me that, I think I would want Eddie Murphy in there. I feel like that'd be better.
I don't know.
Why would you want Eddie Murphy? What's wrong with Eddie Murphy? He's like one of the greatest like 80s and 90s comics there were.
I don't know. Like I don't know. I think it would have been a very different dynamic in it not being a woman and like her trying to get in her pants if it was just some guy. And I don't know. The dynamic would have been very
trying to get in Eddie Murphy's pants, and they'll just be like, "This is sci-fi. This is how we do it.
This is how we do it.
It's sci-fi. It's how we do it."
Uh-huh.
Well, that was my least favorite part of the movie. Now I will bring up my favorite part of the movie.
Oh yeah?
It was definitely when you mentioned it just before we started podcasting, or like that scene, the transparent aluminum. I love that whole entire sequence from them getting from them getting a tour, from them going to like show him, and he's typing on the computer like this, and it's like on the old like Apple II or whatever it was, and
then all these going fast too. He's like,
and he starts going quick, and the graphics just start popping up. It's like the computer was not capable of doing anything he's doing that fast. I don't even know if it was that computer even able to like generate what it was showing on screen? I don't think so. Maybe it was. I don't know.
It might have had software. I mean, he was at a metal fabrication company. So I mean, it must have had some kind of molecular software or something. But it's also a fictionalized version of the 1980s too. So
yeah, that's true too. Either way, that was definitely my favorite. Hello, computer.
Hello, computer.
How could I? He like walks up, just talks to the computer, and then the other guy like
in the future they're used to just talking.
You gotta use the keyboard and mouse, and he just like gets the mouse. He's like, yes. How could I be so stupid?
He's like, how quaint.
How could I not consider this?
It's like,
hello, computer. That was my favorite part.
I love Star Trek. That's probably my favorite part too. It is fantastic. James Doohan is great as Scotty. I love Scotty. I love he's trying to talk to the computer, and then they're like, "Why are we giving him technology from the future?" And Scotty's like, "How do we know he didn't invent it?"
Maybe they didn't invent it. Which is a good argument to like any time travel thing. Now it's like maybe he invented it. I don't know.
Yeah. Transparent aluminum? I'll be rich.
I wish we had transparent aluminum.
I don't think so. I think it technically does exist.
How does transparent aluminum exist? It's a metal.
Mm-hmm.
What?
I think it's real. I think we have transparent.
No, if there's transparent aluminum, we'd be using it for like windows and stuff.
It's probably too expensive. It's probably too expensive for like regular use.
Oh, well, either way. He did invent it in the 1980s.
Yeah, they did.
Why whales?
Well, Star Trek. I think there was like an epidemic of like whales being killed in the 80s, and this movie actually was a huge conservationist boon. Like this movie created awareness and like actually did help uh whale populations come up.
What I thought was kind of cool, I don't know if it was cooler, but it was interesting that in this movie they're showing like I don't know if it was like a news segment or just showing what's going on. Is they were showing like animals. They were showing the whales get like cut up and like how they're like hunting. They'll like hunt them and then they'll like cut them up and sell them or whatever the heck you do with whales.
Yeah.
I don't know. Use it for fuel or they probably got a lot of oil in them. I don't. But the video they were showing in there was like legit. I don't think nowadays you would ever see something like that. I feel like if you were to put that on YouTube or the news or something, it would just they wouldn't
And
allow
this
that. You
movie
couldn't
was
do that.
PG, and they showed like legit whales just getting cut up. It's like that's
Yeah,
like the one actual whales in the film because all the other whales in the film are miniatures and like props. They did a phenomenal job with this film. Like I thought they just like had some actual in captivity whales that they like shot with them because they look so good. And it was
they did
like
look good.
all the whales were practical man-made effects, which is incredible. Except
Man
for
made right there.
yeah, yeah. Um, so here's a statistic. After the Voyage Home was released, there was an uptick in
Yeah.
donations to Greenpeace following the film's release. And by 2016, the humpback whale was removed from the endangered species list following a downtick of hunting in the 1980s and 90s.
Dang.
This movie
So it
did
worked out.
actual good for the world.
It helped out. It helped out the whales. Oh, so somebody over at
And
Star Trek.
specifically the humpback whales. Like they were doing research on it, and it was like a problem they thought, and so they built it into the movie. They were extinct in Star Trek's future, and they tried to bring that as a
Bring it back.
what if we hunt them to extinction? And it's like to hunt
It's
something to
such a
extinction is
simple
not
premise.
logical. Whoever said the
Eh,
human race was logical?
It's just a simple movie. It's just that like there's I like that it wasn't I didn't have to like try to understand like Dune when we talk about Dune or something. I didn't have to like, super focus in and like pay attention to everything to like make sure you don't miss anything or these names. Like I can kind of like I still don't know all the names, but like if I were to like go back, it's like oh yeah I can do that I can do that. But doing whales, just making the whole movie just like yeah we're going in, save whale, leave. Like that was basically boiled down to like 3 sentences what this movie is. And there's almost no movies you can do that, and it's nice sometimes where you can just kind of like hang out and watch a movie rather than this is gonna lead into another crazy movie, which leads into another crazy movie. Like this, I haven't even seen the first 3 movies, and I'm still able to follow along and understand what's going on in these movies rather than like, oh yeah, this is movie 17 in the part 3 of the series or whatever. You know what I mean? I don't know.
Yeah, I
I thought
mean,
it was nice for that.
as far as the Star Trek original series cast films go, 2, 3, and 4 are like a trilogy. They dovetail into each other perfectly. One has almost nothing to do with any of the other ones. Five doesn't really. Like, five actually makes no sense in context with the rest of the films in the series. It just like it's a bizarre film. It
Just
makes
like a
no sense at
one-off
all.
thing.
Yeah, like it canonically doesn't really make any sense, especially if you consider the Star Trek 6, because there's a couple lines that I'm just like, what? So like in Star Trek 6, he's like they're it's a Klingon heavy movie, and they're like, guess who's coming to dinner? And because they invite the Klingons over to the ship for like a dinner to try to like broker peace and whatnot. And then in Star Trek 5, the very end of the film, they're literally hanging out with Klingons and eating food. I'm just like, why are you having a problem with this all of a sudden? You just ate with them a couple of weeks ago in the last movie, right? Like, what's going on? Like, I don't know. It was really bizarre. Five, I just feel like five just doesn't exist really in canon. It doesn't make sense.
You don't want it to exist.
It's not. It's not a very good movie.
For this one.
It's got some really good parts in it,
Yeah.
But it's a bad film, like overall.
Overall, not a good one.
It's got some fun character moments between Kirk, Spock, and McCoy, and some of the other crew. Like some of the character moments are really good, but the story, whew,
what is William Shatner's like name in this? Is
Admiral Kirk?
Okay, so he's Kirk.
Captain James T. Kirk. Oh, he's Admiral now, but in the original series,
we're still working on the names. I know he's a big shot in the Star Trek.
Who's the guy in your picture?
That's Spock.
And?
What do you mean, and?
That's Gracie.
Oh.
George and Gracie.
So the name of the
whale. That's an easy name, George and Gracie. Two G's. And
yeah,
how do you know what? Pregnant.
Honestly, I would have been able to answer that question, but nobody, you don't just like look at it. You're talking to Spock and who?
And who else is in the picture?
How do you know if this is Grace or how do you know which one's which? Huh?
Well, because he mind melds with Gracie because that's how he knows she's pregnant.
Yeah, but does he have to touch him for that?
Well, I mean, the mind meld usually involves touch. He mind melded with the whale, found out it was pregnant. Okay. So it must have been Gracie. I mean, I guess George could have told him, but I mean, I
is that what he did with the? There's a guy on a bus, and he like touches his neck or
that's the Vulcan neck pinch. That's the Vulcan neck pinch. It's like a nerve that they can touch and like palpate in a way just makes you pass out.
Just through the shirt, he just like went like this, and he just like went out.
Funny inside story for Synthaholics. So the song that the guy was playing on that radio, the punk rocker guy, that I originally wanted that song to be the opening of Synthaholics.
Wow, that's some lore right there. You got some Synthaholics lore.
That's some Synthaholics lore. But I reached out to the guy who wrote the song and I never heard back from him, so I didn't use it. And then I reached out to Warp 11, and they were like, yeah, you can use our music. So that's why we used Warp 11's music for a long time. And now we've got our current Synthaholic little jingle that Aaron O'Brien's friend created for us. So if you're still listening, I really appreciate it. It's a really cool piece of music. But yeah, that's like the lore of Synthaholics. I originally really wanted the Star Trek 4 music. So Star Trek 4 holds a deep place in my heart because it's one of my favorite.
This is where it was all going to start with this.
Yeah, I mean, like that music. I hate you. I do hate you. It's just like so dumb, but it's very iconic to Star Trek 4. It's like some song they just made up for it.
Yeah, I mean that's what a lot of this is just kind of like they just make stuff up on the spot. But they're like and nowadays. Well, I guess I don't know. Maybe it feels like there's more effort into Star Trek 4. I haven't seen all the other ones, but I feel like there's a lot of effort into Star Trek 4 to just like try to make it good. Just try to make it like make sense, because I'm sure they're working with a budget, but they're like there's certain things that we need to make this movie like work.
In that video I sent you, the little I think he said it was only $35 million.
Yeah, that's a low budget,
but it's also 1980s money, but still like. Like movies today are like these $500 million things, and like Star Trek 4 still looks really good.
I mean, it doesn't look amazing, but
this movie came out when I was 3. This is one of the earliest films I saw in the movie theater.
You saw this when you were 3?
Yeah.
Man, did you understand what was going on?
No, I just like whales.
Whales!
I was a 3-year-old. Of course, I just cared about the whales. But my dad was a Star Trek fan, or is a Star Trek fan, and so he recorded like all the episodes of the original series, and he bought the movies when they came out, and they were always on. And I one of the earliest memories of going to the movie theater, I believe, was this film and Land Before Time with the dinosaurs.
Land Before Time is a good one.
I remember seeing Land Before Time. And then, older, a couple years later, I definitely saw all the other Star Treks in the movie theater. But I think this was my first movie theater Star Trek film.
Man, another lore. We got another lore tip. Deep cut lore, dude.
So I've seen this movie 100 times. I was gonna watch this movie last night, but we got on the phone with a realtor. So
did you end up having to watch this movie, or have you just seen enough where you're like, yeah, I'm good?
I wanted to watch it again because I wanted it fresh for our talk. I only got to watch like the first 30 minutes of it. Then we were on the phone with the realtor a couple hours. So
I'll say
I did
I wasn't too intrigued of the movie until they got to like the whales or like to the back to the past or whatever you would call it. That was when the movie started like got its like hooks in me, and that's when I started to get more involved and I wanted to pay attention more. When they were on the ship, I wasn't really following everything and I didn't really care what was going on, but it didn't happen until they got to like the 80s where I was like, "Ooh, this is cool." They go and try to sell glasses and he's like, "Oh, these are from what do you say? Like 19th century or something like that." How much are you going to give me? I'll give you $100. Is that a lot?
In 1980, sure.
Yeah, I guess it is a lot in the 1980s. Is that a lot? I thought that was good. So them just like interacting with just people, whether it's in the aluminum plexiglass factory or selling the watch or just being in the restaurant and just interacting with people that are like in the 80s, but like they're like from the future, but in the 80s, so they're trying to like fit in. I don't know. I thought that like dynamic was more interesting than just if everybody was from like the same like timeline. I thought that was kind of cool.
Well, yeah, I mean it's great because I mean this is the first time Star Trek really tried to be funny. Like this was basically the closest you get to a Star Trek comedy until Lower Decks.
Yeah.
Watch where you going, jackass! Dumbass on you.
Yeah, or they get on the bus when they're like looking at the map to like try to figure out where to go, and the Admiral Kirk sees like a billboard on a bus, and he just like says, "I think we should go here. This is exactly where we need to be." And Spock just looks at him, he's like, "How do you know that? Just trust me." And then they just get on the bus and they immediately get kicked off.
What does it mean?
Exact change. What does that mean? Yeah, that was pretty good too. I enjoyed that part as well. It's just that, so I guess
the nuclear vessels.
I guess just them just walking around like the 80s and just interacting with things and people that were there. That was a cool part.
Yeah. So the woman who spoke to Chekhov when he was asking for nuclear vessels, that line was ad-libbed. She wasn't supposed to talk, and because she spoke, they had to pay her more.
Really?
Yeah, she was just supposed to walk by like everyone else, and she just like ad-libbed the line, and like it worked, and they ended up having to pay her more. Because everyone was supposed to. I mean, I'm glad that it was done because I mean, like it makes the scene. Because I mean, if everyone just ignored him, it wouldn't be much of a scene. But the one person just tells them exactly what they said. Oh yeah, it's across the bay in Alameda.
She just walks by. Really? That was pretty good. Yeah. She saw her moment and she had to take it.
She took it.
I wonder if the directors or whoever was on set that day was just
Leonard Nimoy directed.
Leonard Nimoy directed it?
Yeah, he directed Star Trek 3 and 4.
Wow. He did a pretty good job.
Yeah.
He did a pretty good job.
And then William Shatner directed Star Trek 5 and
well, I don't know. I'm not really a fan of William Shatner, so I'm not surprised since that's bad. That doesn't surprise me like at all. I don't like that guy.
What do you think about the music? I really like the music in Star Trek 4.
Yeah, on the bus music is kind of cool.
Oh, and then also the opening music, and the ending music. It's the upbeat, like kind of like I don't know, like bells and stuff.
It's more fun, just more kind of like a fun song, not like serious.
Ding 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 ding.
Yeah.
It's man, like this movie's just like it hits all the marks. It's a good Star Trek movie. It has a message without beating you over the head with it. It actually made actual change. Like I don't know. I think Star Trek is best when it's trying to do. It has something to say, but it's not like so overt. It's just like smacking you in the face with it, and it's just like, oh, okay. It was done in an entertaining way, and I don't think TV shows nowadays need to like go back and actually watch old Star Trek and these older films and be like, this is how you deliver a message and be entertaining. Because all they're doing now in most TV shows is just the message that we're trying to put out, and it's not entertaining. This movie had a message. and it was extremely entertaining. And Brian's not a big Star Trek fan, and he gave this movie a 7.5, 8. You know, I mean, that's when you know a movie works, when someone who's not a fan and genuinely enjoys something. And that's why I wanted to start you with Star Trek 4 if we're going to watch an old Star Trek movie, because most people who don't watch Star Trek have seen 4 and like it.
That's me.
Yeah.
Yeah, one thing, I'm not super political or anything, but I saw an interview, probably a few years ago or whatever, and it was George Lucas, and he directly got, it wasn't like a big interview or anything, it was just kind of like off on the side. It was kind of like, you know when you're like walking a red carpet and there's like all the paparazzi and stuff, and people walk by in the
magazines and websites.
It was like it was kind of like that, and they asked him like why isn't like Star Wars more diverse, and they were referring to the prequels 1, 2, and 3. They were referring to those ones. So it's that old of an interview, and they're saying like, oh, why isn't there more like women characters or different other than white people and black people and whatever. Then he was like, oh, this is just kind of, trying to figure out how to answer the question. How, like, it was it's just how it was, how the story is or whatever. In Star Trek, it doesn't seem like it doesn't have that problem at all. It seems like, they got everything. And I don't even know if they were trying to aim for that or anything. They have white people, black people, there's Asian people. So it's like, even back then.
Star Trek absolutely was trying.
Yeah, they have it. You can't ever get on Star Trek for like being like, oh, it was just a bunch of white people or whatever, because it's just not. It was never like that. Everything that I've seen, at least, it hasn't been like that.
Well, Star Trek has always been about that. Star Trek has always been had a diverse cast, and like, that's what also kind of drives me crazy about these new Star Trek films. It's like when Discovery came out, it's the first black lead of a Star Trek show, and there's a first woman lead of a Star Trek. She's the first black woman lead. But Janeway was the first woman lead, and Cisco from Deep Space Nine was the first black lead. It's just like, you can't... Yeah. I mean, it's the first both black female lead, but I mean, like, we've had a black lead and we've had a female lead of Star Trek before. And the original series... And the you know what the most controversial thing was? Just for the original cast for the 1960s? Having a Russian on the bridge.
Yeah, I mean, I guess it would be controversial.
More controversial than Uhura being on the bridge. The controversy with Uhura was there's an episode where Kirk and Uhura kissed, and a lot of people threatened to pull it and not show that episode because of the interracial marriage and dating and stuff was like frowned upon. But the thing is, they tried to get Kirk and Uhura to They tried to film it without the kiss, and every take they did, they messed it up on purpose, so they had to go with the kiss shot.
Interesting.
So I mean, Star Trek has done a lot of good.
Well, it doesn't, because it doesn't feel like they're trying to like shove it down your throat or anything. They're just like, this is just how it is. this is how we're gonna make it. Which, good on Star Trek.
That's how Star Trek is supposed to be. But Star Trek Discovery and kind of Star Trek Picard and Star Trek Strange New Worlds, it feels like a lot. They're more like they're trying to shove it down your throat. They're a lot less subtle with it. The Star Trek, it was just, that's how it was. The original series, Next Gen, that's just how it was. No one ever brought it up. And they just acted like it was normal, but like bringing attention to it makes it like, I don't know.
It makes it a thing, and it loses like genuine. It's not genuine anymore when you're bringing it up. Mm-hmm. I wonder if there was like back alley conversation, not back alley, but like on the studio. I wonder if there was people that was like giving them a hard time for being like, oh my gosh, there's a black person in here. Like, because even the original Star Wars, it really wasn't diverse. It was just a bunch of white guys. But this wasn't, and this kind of, I feel like this probably for the time broke the mold because I wasn't alive during that time. So I wonder if there's people like, oh, we gotta and we need more white people here or something.
What's interesting? I don't think. I mean, it was Gene Roddenberry. He created Star Trek. He wanted it to be diverse. He wanted a Japanese person. He wanted a Russian. He wanted a black person. And he wanted an alien. on the an actual and everyone working together and no conflict between the characters. Everyone worked together for the betterment of the Federation slash
Yeah, yeah.
the united humanity plus aliens. So that's just how it was. Like I said, the big thing was Uhura and Kirk kissing in one of the episodes, and that was like a lot of people in the South kind of threatened to pull that episode and not air it.
Gotcha,
Because
gotcha.
that was like that was taboo in the '60s.
Well,
But Star Trek was always kind of pushing the boundaries, and they did it subtly for the most part, which I thought was great.
yeah,
Also,
that's why I appreciate it. Just because nowadays,
it beat you up in a
I don't
pattern.
even have I have no social media or anything, and I'm getting tired of seeing it. And I don't even seek it out or anything. It's just like a movie comes out, and it's just like, oh, this is the first time we're doing this, or we're excited to show this new kind of cast or whatever. It's
It's
like
like
don't even bring it up. If they're good actors, I don't care who they are. If they do good, I don't care.
if they're good actors and if the story is good and entertaining, I don't care.
Yep, I don't care who you are. Just do a good job. Don't
Just
matter
do
to
a good
me.
job. And like people say it's racist, and I'm like, how is that racist?
I just want a good movie.
I don't care if they're black, Asian, white, gay, lesbian, trans.
Yeah,
I don't care.
just
If
do a
they're a
good job.
good actor and the story is good,
I support you.
yeah, do you and keep making good art.
Yep.
That's all I care about is the art being good.
Yep. Yep.
And Star Trek did it great in the '60s, in the '80s, in the '90s. They did a really good job with always with diversity.
Yeah.
And actually, Uhura was actually looking to quit. Martin
You
Luther
just said two things I don't know what mean. But
Uhura, the girl
oh, okay.
Uhura. So she
Yeah,
was
I saw.
about to quit, like pretty soon after the show started, and she was an acquaintance with Martin Luther King, and she was mentioning it to him, and he was like, "No, you don't quit. You're representing us on screen. Don't go anywhere. You should keep the role." And so she did.
Nice. That's kind of cool. Yeah.
There's a
Well,
lot of
good job.
history with Star Trek. A lot of history with Star Trek. Also, I Love Lucy made Star Trek Star Trek.
You're gonna have to keep explaining. I've watched a lot of I Love Lucy.
So,
I don't know how the two come together at all.
well, her studio, Desilu Studios.
Yeah, Desilu Studios.
Yeah, so there was a pilot called Star Trek. The original pilot of Star Trek featured Captain Christopher Pike, and it did not do well. It did not get greenlit. She fought for Star Trek to get a second chance. And without
Lucille Ball?
Lucille Ball.
Oh,
Without Lucy,
cool.
Star Trek wouldn't have been.
Thank you, Lucille Ball. You gave David his best hobby.
and you
owe Lucille Ball everything.
you also like Lower Decks, so you can thank her for you too, because you.
Well, I also like Lucille Ball though. I've
she's
seen
great.
almost everything she's ever done.
I love Lucy. She's an amazing comedian, and the fact that she saved Star. So like people listening probably know a lot of this because we've talked a lot about it in the past from Star Trek. But Brian's new. We're trying to indoctrinate Brian into Star Trek and make him love it as much as I do.
That definitely won't happen, but I'm more than willing to watch stuff. I'll watch anything.
I mean, we're working on you slowly. We're getting Lower Decks.
You can keep going, but I'm pretty sure there's a lot of it I won't like at all.
Well, I mean,
Lower Decks is good though. I like genuinely really like Lower Decks.
Did you genuinely like Star Trek 4?
Yeah, but Star Trek 4 isn't something I ever would have like seeked out. I feel like at this point with like how much I like Lower Decks, I think I would have ended up watching this regardless if we would have podcasted on it or not.
You would?
I don't think I would have. I think so. I don't think I would have done it with Star Trek 4 because I really like Lower Decks. And if you were watching it and you were telling me about it, the way you would explain it would be like, oh yeah, I'll watch it, and we wouldn't even have to podcast on it. So. Yeah, Lower Decks.
Yeah, Lower Decks is great. I'm glad it was your interest. Everyone's got their own entry point to Star Trek. I remember looking forward to the Next Generation coming on TV. we had the Cheerio boxes. So when you send in so many proof of purchases, you get they had a little metal die-cast Enterprise D.
Yeah.
I remember we got 2 of those from eating Cheerios. I remember anticipating it coming on TV. Like, Star Trek's been part of my life since I can
Your
remember.
whole life.
My entire life.
Your entire life.
Which is why Star Trek's such a big thing for me.
Well, that's Star Trek 4, even though we talked about more than just Star Trek 4.
Yeah, I mean, I just kind of wanted to fold Brian in, give him some of the trivia, give him some behind the scenes, and like, I'm doing pretty good for. I didn't get to watch this movie last night.
Well, we can close with the poster. You brought this up before the podcast. The poster is the same as the one in or it's similar to the one in Lower Decks.
Yeah,
and
Lower
I thought
Decks
you thought that
4.
was cool, and then once you told me, I also thought that was cool. So with that, email David at synthaholics@yahoo.com.
Excellent. All right. Well, thank you all for listening. I hope you enjoyed the second dose of Star Trek back to back. Thanks, Brian, for checking out this movie.
No problem.
All right. Until next time, guys, live long and prosper and save the whales.
Yeah, of course.